Hi guys, Alan here, Solid Rock Class. Hey, I'm so glad you're with me. Back on Character Traits of Jesus here. We're going to be talking about being orderly. Orderly. Not sometimes a popular subject, but letting each thing I do be controlled and regulated by Jesus Christ so that my life is peaceful rather than chaotic. Catch that last piece. So my life is peaceful rather than chaotic. We look in the book of Ecclesiastes and look at the 12th chapter, verse 9. It says, "And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out, and set in order many proverbs." Let me catch this in a different version here real quick. Probably my go-to version, which is the English Standard Version when I want to stray a little bit away from the King James. And it says, same passage in the English Standard Version, "Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care." Then let's skip over real briefly into a passage in the New Testament. It says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." That's 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter, verse 40. And, in this particular passage, in 1 Corinthians 14:40, he's clearly talking in regards and down the lines of spiritual gifts. We're not going there today, by the way, in regards to spiritual gifts, but two things are really emphasized here that I want us to think about. First of all, in this particular passage, if we look in verse 26, it says, "Let everything be done into edifying." And then we get into that 40th verse that says, "Let everything be done decently in order." God is a God of order. We can see that. We can go back to the book of Genesis and we can look at the creation story, and God is a God of order. Everything was done in absolutely precise and perfect order. We look at the universe and the way that it was created. It's absolutely incredible, the order that the stars and the planets are in. But as we think about these spiritual gifts, we think about spiritual gifts within the church, and we think about using our gifts for God in the church. But aren't we supposed to take our spiritual gifts and take them outside the four walls of the church? I was in one church a while back, and we was looking the building over, and it was a very nice building, but it wasn't anything that was ornate. And he said, "We don't spend that much money here." It was a very large church, by the way. He says, "We don't spend that much money here. This isn't made to be fancy." He said, "Because this isn't the church." He said, "This is just the building. We want to spend our money outside the church." And again, I ask that same question. Aren't we supposed to take our spiritual gifts and take them outside to the world? So if we think about order always comes together when love is in the middle of it. Order always comes when everything operates within the bounds of love. When we have love one for another, things operate different, don't they? When we love our wife or when we love our husband, there's this unity that occurs. Order always is order when God's Spirit is welcomed and brought into the middle of it. Order desires people and draws people to be saved because they have all this chaos in their life. I think many times spiritual gifts are something that are abused because they're only displayed within the four walls of the church. And all of a sudden things change when you go outside the church. I had a man, this goes back a few years ago, and this was a church board setting that I was in. And he said, he was talking about what he was doing right there as far as presenting to us. And he says, now, it's different when I go out into public. It's kind of like, no, we shouldn't be different when we go out into public. I remember I left a church parking lot not too long ago. I was driving out, and here's a sign outside that church parking lot. And it says, now you are entering the mission field. See, things are supposed to be done decently in order within church, but things are supposed to be decently and in order outside the church. See, we need that order in the church. Otherwise, it's not going to draw people to the church. It's not going to draw people to Christ if we don't have that order within the church and the church family. But we also need order within our homes. You know, many times people take and they try to present their family differently in church, or they try to present their family differently when they're out in public, or when maybe they're in a business setting or even a financial setting. But when they get within their own home, the four walls, and they lock the door, many times it's not orderly. And we see that on the news all the time, don't we? Where we have all of this violence that occurs many times within families. See, there needs to be order, and it needs to start with the church. It needs to bring love into our families. It needs to bring love into our lives, and that'll spread right to our homes. But it goes beyond that, because all of a sudden we're going to bring order to our town, our community, our neighborhood. We're going to love our neighbor as ourself, as the Bible teaches us. It's going to bring order to the way that we act. We don't go to a store and act like a jerk. We don't take and go to a restaurant and treat a waiter or a waitress like a jerk, or like we're something above them. We don't take, in our business dealings, we need order within our business dealings. Think about that for a split second. Within our own business, I own a business. Maybe you work for a business. But there needs to be order there. Just like the church should start a service on time, and a Sunday school teacher should show up on time for his or her class. Hey, we need to show up on time in our business. It's not a good representation of the Lord Jesus Christ. It's not showing order when we're not on time. See, we need that order in our business. I have a sign on the door that says, hey, we are open from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And guess what? We have to be there from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock to serve the people that come to see us. There's an order to it. When we take and we work with a client, there's an order to it, to make sure that it not only that they get what they need, but they pay for it with the right price, and it's delivered and set up, and it's all done properly and orderly and legally. The other place we need order, not only in our business and around town, in our homes and our church, we need order within our finances. One of the worst representations of the Lord Jesus Christ you'll ever find is when people don't take care of their bills. when you've got bill collectors taking and chasing after you. Had a lady in the office the other day, and she must have had 3 calls while she was there from people you could tell were collectors. And hey, that does not, I'm not saying that she was a Christian, she wasn't representing herself as a Christian, but that doesn't bring a good testimony if we don't take care of our own home finances. We need, number one, we need to not extend ourselves any further than what we can pay. Number 2, we need to pay our bills. Number 3, we need to save some money, and we need to give some money, and we need to take and represent the Lord Jesus Christ through our finances. That includes our giving. That includes our spending. That includes our saving. That includes our bills and not being overextended. But we need that order within our finances. I think there's a Peanuts cartoon that I wanted just to mention for a second. And you I think everybody knows the Peanuts people, the characters there, and you've got Lucy. And she's demanding that Linus take and change the television channel. And she's threatening him with her fist. If you don't do this, if you don't do this. Linus says, well, what makes you think you can just walk right in here and take over? Lucy comes, he says, these 5 fingers right here. Says, individually they're nothing, but when you curl them up all together, like this into a single fist, they're a weapon. Linus says, okay, what channel do you want? He turns away and he looks at his fingers and he says, why can't you guys be organized like that? Let's go back to what we started with. And when I took and I said, what does the word orderly mean here? Letting each thing I do be controlled and regulated by Jesus Christ, so that my life it's peaceful rather than chaotic. Why should we take and be constantly running behind in our schedules? Why should we be always short on our finances? We want peace in our life. We don't want chaos in our life. And that's the entire point when Paul says to the church in 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter, verse 40, let all things be done decently and in order. Hey, this is Alan. I'll catch up with you a little bit later.